All right, welcome to The Explainer. So Elon Musk just spent hours, and I mean hours, talking with Joe Rogan. And they covered, well, pretty much everything. Rockets, politics, AI, the whole shebang. We've listened to all of it and distilled that entire conversation into a quick 5-minute tour of his current worldview. We're going to map out his key ideas for you right here.
He kicks things off with this one thought: it feels like reality is accelerating. You can really feel this sense of urgency from him. He sees civilization at this, critical, fast-moving point where the stakes are just incredibly high. So let's break down the 4 key pillars of his thinking, starting with the technology he believes is going to define our future.
Okay, first up, technology on the frontier. For Musk, look, progress begins with building the tools for a whole new era. And that mission? Well, of course, it starts in space.
Now, when he talks about Starship, he frames the entire mission of SpaceX as something much bigger than just launching rockets. For him, it's fundamental. It's about ensuring the long-term survival of consciousness itself by getting a self-sustaining city up and running on Mars.
So what's the key to all this? He simplifies the whole massive engineering challenge down to one fundamental concept: reusability. He argues that making rockets that can land and fly again, just like airplanes, isn't just an improvement, it's the single breakthrough. It's the thing that drops the cost of getting to space by a factor of over 100. It's a total game changer.
And to really wrap your head around the scale of this operation, check this out. Musk claims that this year alone, SpaceX is on track to deliver roughly 90% of all mass launched into Earth's orbit. That leaves every other country and company in the world combined with just 10%. That's just incredible dominance.
All right, so from the tech frontier, Musk pivots to what he sees as a totally different kind of war, an ideological one. He believes there's a parallel battle happening, not up in the sky, but right here on the ground, in our culture and especially on our screens.
And he has a name for what he's fighting: the woke mind virus. You hear him use this term a lot, so what does he mean by it? He defines it as a nihilistic, anti-civilizational worldview. Basically, an ideology he believes is actively working against progress, truth, and, well, society itself.
So what's the antidote to this virus? Well, in his words, sunlight is the best disinfectant. And this idea, he says, was his core motivation for buying Twitter, which is now X. His goal was to create a digital town square where open debate could, disinfect the platform from this ideology.
He also talks about this idea he calls suicidal empathy. He uses it to explain policies on things like crime and immigration that, to him, just seem completely irrational. He argues it's what happens when empathy for perpetrators starts to outweigh any concern for the victims or for society as a whole.
And this all leads directly to his diagnosis of the political machine today. He basically sees it as a system that's just running on a set of completely broken incentives. So let's take the recent shift in immigration policy. Musk offers a really stark theory for why it's happening. He just comes right out and says it. The reason is that they discovered that those people vote for them. In his mind, it's not incompetence, it's a deliberate political strategy.
And he lays out exactly how he believes this strategy works. He points out that non-citizens are counted in the U.S. Census, and that census count determines congressional seats and electoral college votes. He then brings up how some states have made showing voter ID illegal. In his view, you add it all up, and you're paving a path to entrench political power permanently.
Okay, he also turns his attention to government spending and, get this, he claims the U.S. is just hemorrhaging money through fraud. He estimates the number could be as high as $200 billion every single year. So what's the main culprit here? He calls them zombie payments. It's a great term, actually. These are basically recurring funds that were approved by someone ages ago. That person has since died or retired or left their job, but nobody ever turned off the tap, so the money just keeps flowing out forever. And he actually describes a specific mechanism for this fraud, something he calls a bank shot scam. Here's how he says it works. The Social Security database has millions of, let's call them, ghost profiles, people who are impossibly old or haven't even been born. But since that database is used as the source of truth for all other government agencies, fraud rings can use those ghost profiles to claim fake payments from tons of other places, like for student loans or unemployment. Okay, finally, Musk looks to the near future, and this is where he sees both our greatest promise and our most profound danger. Of course, we're talking about the rise of artificial intelligence.
And he warns that programming that mind virus we talked about directly into AI is a massive existential threat. He points to examples like the Google Gemini controversy. He highlights an instance where the AI was asked what's worse, misgendering someone or global thermonuclear war, and its response, he claims, implied that misgendering was the worse option. For Musk, this is proof that AI is being forced to believe and state things that are just not true, and that, he thinks, could have absolutely disastrous consequences.
So what's his bold prediction for the future? Well, he thinks that within just 5 to 6 years, so really soon, the whole idea of apps and even smartphones as we know them will be totally obsolete. He thinks they'll be replaced by devices that are basically just screens for a personalized AI that generates your reality in real time.
Which leaves us with this final, really provocative question. As AI and ideology start to merge, who gets to write the code for our future? This really connects the dots. The key takeaway from his entire worldview is that these fights that seem separate, the one in space, the one in our culture, the one happening in code, in his mind, they aren't separate at all. They're all part of the same essential war for what comes next.